Hello and welcome YouTubers and Doctor Who fanatics to the Christmas Collection Update, showcase number 46. Yes, I had a wonderful Christmas and I hope everyone else did as well. Yeah, this is the last showcase installment for 2016. It felt quite appropriate for the Ultimate Showcase to be the last, but no it isn't. Of course, to end off a year you have to do a Christmas Collection Update, and for this update you know that I've got a ton of Doctor Who books, but as well Big Finish. But that's not all. But yeah, in this collection update, Christmas collection update, I'm only showing the Doctor Who stuff which I got. So yeah, I've got a nice amount of Big Finishes, a ton of Doctor Who books, some rare entries as well. If you know classic TV productions with the Showcase series, you know I've got rare entries. As well, a little announcement at the end to conclude 2016 of the Showcase series. So, without no further ado, let's begin the final installment of the Showcase series for this year, 2016, the Christmas Collection Update Showcase 46. So let's begin. So first, I'll just show you the stuff which I didn't get for Christmas. This is just stuff which I purchased before Christmas. And the first one, it'll be featured in everyone's collection update. At this point in time now, and a few weeks before, every collection update has featured this item because it was a very hyped release for obvious reasons. It is the Power of the Daleks DVD release. Yeah, as well as getting a Blu-ray release and a Steelbook release. Now, since I am a huge fan of Power, yeah, I'm definitely going to get the Steelbook release because they just look really nice, they do. And as well, they're limited to 3,000 copies, I do believe. Yeah, I have watched Power of the Daleks. You know I rate the story an absolute solid 10 out of 10. And I still stand strong by that because I do consider it one of the greatest Doctor Who stories in existence. And it would have been even better if we had the real deal. But for a sad truth, to find the real deal, it's very unlikely. It's actually one of the most unlikeliest Doctor Who stories to turn up. But it is good. It wasn't a rush release like The Enemy of the World and The Web of Fear, and it wasn't like a complete disaster with The Underwater Menace, where I got completely pissed off because they put no effort in the release, and still no excuse because they were like cancelling it, delaying it, reviving it, just faffing around with it. And I personally found that unacceptable. Yet the Underwater Menace Classic Review has become a classic video on my channel. I think some people do like to see me a little bit ranty and pissed off sometimes. But yeah, Power of the Daleks, wasn't like that. They animated all 6 episodes, and that's great to see, great effort. But I've got stuff to say about the animation. I'll say that in a review coming soon. I've watched it once, I gotta watch it for a second time. I always experience stuff for a second time to then, make notes up. But yeah, I'm gonna watch the story one more time, and then I will build the review. This cover variant I don't mind, but it's the spine which doesn't do it for me. It just looks off on the shelf. That looks, a lot better. So yeah, that's the Power of the Daleks DVD release. And then the 3 books I got before Christmas, I'll show you the Beneath Summerfield books first, and then the other Virgin book. First one is Walk into Babylon by Kate Orman, one of the most respected Doctor Who writers. Of course, every classic writer will have their off days, like Sleepy can be a little diversified, and Vampire Science is a little bit split. But yeah, Kate Orman, usually classics to her name. And for a lot of people, one of the greatest writers with the Doctor Who books. See, that's Walk into Babylon, which I hear is actually one of the best Beneath Summerfield books, and the adaptation, or the Beneath Summerfield audio release, is also very good from the Time Ring trilogy, I do believe. And the next one, which is the last Beneath Summerfield book, or if you count it in the New Adventures range, which it technically is, this is the last New Adventure. And it is Twilight of the Gods, where it all ends. I'm gonna say I am a big fan of this cover. I hate the logo design on the later New Adventures featuring Beneath Summerfield. I'm just not a fan of that logo. But for the cover, it's nice. I guess it shows more of the cover. Yeah, I don't really recommend just jumping to this book immediately because, it ends a lot of arcs which are set up beforehand. It's not really a jumping on point book, it is. This book, Twilight of the Gods, when beforehand there was a Virgin Missile adventure called Twilight of the Gods, and I don't think it was never explained or never said why, but there you go. I don't really know the reason of why. Maybe they just thought the name was just really suitable. and they just didn't like any other name for this book. You know, I really have no idea. I wouldn't think they would forget that there was a book previously called it. I think they just liked the name and it went well with the book. But hey, I don't know the reason. But yeah, that's Twilight of the Gods, the final Benny Summerfield book, or the final new adventure. And the last Doctor Who book before we get into the Christmas stuff. This is Happy Endings by Paul Cornell. Yes, this is from the Virgin New Adventures. You know, I showcased Death and Diplomacy in the Ultimate Showcase. I only needed Happy Endings and So Valor Sin to complete the collection. And yet, in the blood, it is Happy Endings. Now, I got this for a pretty good price, like 12 quid, somewhere around there, so quite a nice price for it. It's quite of a good price at the moment. I believe it's like 15 quid. It floats by the 20 to 25 pound area. For New Adventure standards, it is one of the more expensive ones, but not one of the, you know, big ones like the top three with the almighty Lumbarrow, the Dying Days, or So Valor Sin. The Dying Days and Lumbar are now over the £100 area. Dying Days is like 150 and Lumbar is 250. You know, those books always have rarity to them, even So Valor Sin. They're just very well known rare Doctor Who books, and you know my problem with So Valor Sin. Yeah, it really is the elusive bastard of the Doctor Who books. But anyway, it's very nice to have Happy Endings, and as well in lovely condition. Yeah, this is the 50th New Adventure, as it says by here, and this one, don't have to take it seriously at all. Just a nice, fun Doctor Who Virgin New Adventures, which is, you know, quite a rarity when it comes to the New Adventures, because, you know, they're known as really strong, gritty books. But on the cover you can tell there'll be a lot of, you know, recurring characters. Yeah, this book seems an awful lot of fun, which is, you know, a rarity in the New Adventures range. So yep, that is Happy Endings by Paul Cornell, the 50th Virgin New Adventure. So now, it's just So Valor Sin to hunt down. Do I have it? You just have to wait. Yeah, these are the stuff which I got for Christmas. Power of the Daleks, 2 Benny Summerfield books of Walking to Babylon and Twilight of the Gods, and a Virgin New Adventure, Happy Endings. So now, to the main bulk of the Christmas collection update. We move into the Big Finish audios, and then the BBC books. Furthermore, we have W.H. Allen hardbacks as well to showcase. So first, we're going to be doing the Big Finishes. So to the Big Finish audios now. I was quite overwhelmed by how many Big Finish audios I had. I thought I'll have like, you know, 5 or 6, because that's really how much I asked for. I just made a list of Big Finish audio and I said, you know, let's get about, you know, 5 or 6 of these, and I actually got 12 of them. So can't argue with that. Yeah, I've got monthly range audios and companion chronicle audios to showcase, so we'll start with the monthly range. So for the first monthly range, it is The Roof of the World. Yep, this is a 5th Doctor, Perry and Erimem story. Now, this one does sound a little bit unique, because apparently this is actually in the style of like a companion chronicle, which is pretty interesting. And as well, the title's pretty interesting, The Roof of the World, because it's part 1 of Marco Polo. Yeah, I hear that this story is pretty bland and quite forgettable compared to other Big Finish audios, so it's quite of a shadow in the monthly range. I don't really know too much about it story-wise, but I know that it has quite a unique style, being like a companion chronicle. I personally love the companion chronicle style, the companion chronicle range, and I personally find it a underappreciated Doctor Who range, and a lot more people who are in Big Finish need to dive into this range, because, you know, they think, oh, I'd rather just go for the monthly range stuff because, you know, it's full cast. But no, in my opinion, some of my favourite audios are from the companion chronicle range, believe it or not. But yeah, anyway, Roof of the World, apparently it's a little flat, but I'm pretty interested with it, especially the format of it. I haven't listened to many 5th Doctor, Perry and Erimem stories. It's only been, if I can think, I had the Scorpion, which was my first Big Finish audio. Necromantia, kill me. And that's pretty much it, which I've listened to. I do own quite a few of their stories, but I haven't listened to a lot of their stories, just the two. So it'd be nice to listen to something else than just either Scorpion, which is RMM's introduction story, and the complete shit of Necromantia. So yeah, that is The Roof of the World. Next one, again, a unique style to this one, which has sort of interested me. The Game, which is written, if I can remember... Nope, I can't remember. Darwin Henry, that's a name which doesn't ring a bell to me. Yet The Game. The reason why this one is so interesting because it is apparently constructed as a 6-parter, and each part is about 10 minutes, so pretty interesting format, and a very unique format as it's the only monthly range story to do that. I mean, was that format necessary? Did they need to do it? No, not really. I guess they were just playing around with the release, you know, doing something quite different. So I gotta see how the format works on audio to see if that 10-minute 6-part format actually works with this story. And as well, it has Jonathan Pierce in this audio as well, which I do love this person because of course he was the commentator of one of my favourite shows ever, because it was a childhood show to me. It was Robot Wars, which I just flipping adore. Oh, I love the classic series back in the day, and I still love it to this day. I love it. Yeah, that is The Game. Interesting format. The next story, which can be classed as a project story. Well, it's just really got references to the Forge, it is No Man's Land. Yeah, this is written by Martin Day, this one. Collaborated sometimes with Keith Toppin as well. And this one, you know, it's like the closest Big Finish audio to the War games for me, so, you know, this one quite draws me in. The next Big Finish audio, this is an anthology release, or a short trip release, or whatever you want to call it. Circular Time. Yeah, quite a lot of Davison audios here, and I'll tell you why. Because my Big Finish collection, in the monthly range, there's a lot of Davison gaps. I mean, you know, people know this if you've watched the channel for a while, but I'm not the biggest Davison fan. And to be honest, he is growing on me, I gotta admit, because Accutane, the Elite, mainly Elite, and, you know, the Peterloo Massacre, you know, they made me think different of the Fifth Doctor. And I said to myself, you know, he's a flipping good Doctor when the writing's there. But yet there's 4 stories in this collection. One, of course, with spring, summer, autumn, and winter. And yet this is written by Paul Cornell, very famous writer, and Mike Maddox. Don't really see them collaborate with each other quite a lot. It's often Mike Maddox and Alan Barnes. Next audio, which I haven't heard the best on it, and it's a story by James Swallow. Yeah, that name does ring a bell to me because he's done a lot with the Cyberman series, and I do believe this ties in with the Cyberman series somehow. And I would say the Cyberman series is very good. Very political storytelling, very adult storytelling, and very intelligent storytelling as well. So I would definitely recommend it. But yeah, it's Kingdom of Silver. Yeah, this is like constructed as a 3-part of this one, and has like one mini bonus story being Keepsake. They did this a little bit with like the releases after 100. Quite of an interesting format. Yeah, I do believe this one should have concept art in it. So this is a little look. Yeah, it does have concept art, which is quite nice, it is. I'm not gonna lie. And then the next one, Time Reef. And another 3-part story by Mark Platt. Yeah, a little bit more concept art by there as well. Yep, yeah, reviews on this one, people's opinions, they're not that great. It ranges from good, average, and then complete crap. That's what it really gets. You know, 6 and 7 out of 10 is the highest rating I've seen for this story, so not very good for all the Kingdom of Silver. Probably will check it out one of these days because, you know, I want to see how it ties into the Cyberman series, because I have listened to the Cyberman series. And I've just been a complete idiot because I forgot to showcase that one I got before Christmas, so I'm just going to show it now. I never did a subscription to the early adventures because none of them really interested me except for one, which was written by Simon Guerrier, and it was the Sontarans. And I was pretty blown away by this one. This was just magnificent, a real treat. I highly recommend this one. I really do want to review it because I was just so overwhelmed by it. I never checked out Age of Endurance. That one sort of interested me because Nick Wallace is quite of a good writer apparently, and he did do Fear Itself, which is regarded as the best PDA book, so quite interesting. The second and third never really drawn me in really, but this one, I checked it out because it just got crazy good reviews, and I listened to it and I was blown away. The ending, I knew they were going to do that. Yeah, I just knew it. It felt like when the story was going through, they were playing around with that a little bit, and I hope it actually happens like a follow-up to what happened at the end of the story, and it actually happens with an early adventure release. I hope that tease means something, and they never do it because sometimes Big Finish do that. You know, they teased a sequel at the end of We Are the Daleks, but where is the sequel to We Are the Daleks? I hope it is, because We Are the Daleks is one of my favourite stories of all time with Doctor Who. Yeah, the Sontarans, I definitely want to review this one. I can say straight away, buy it. So yeah, now to the Companion Chronicles. This is a range which I do want to complete because they're generally just quite cheap to get on like Amazon or eBay. But yeah, the ones I've got is Fear of the Daleks by Patrick Chapman. I've heard this one isn't the best really. Very weak story by a lot of reviewers. But again, you gotta think this, they were on their feet with the Companion Chronicle range because this is just basically the start to it all. So that, you know, getting used to the format, stepping into a territory which isn't forecast and more audiobook based. You know, these would feel like more audiobooks, but now the Companion Chronicles are like advanced audiobooks now. But yeah, I'll check this one out someday. Next is the Bluetooth, which is actually regarded as a pretty good one. I've listened to Frostfire, which is the first ever one, and I thought it was pretty good. Yeah, this is by Nigel Fairs, and it's the only Third Doctor story, well, sort of, where he encounters the Cybermen, because he never had one in the TV series. He encountered them in the Five Doctors, but that doesn't really count because it's not a Third Doctor story. And this is a Companion Chronicle, so, you know, it's not really the Third Doctor. The only closest thing and the best thing we can get now is that the Cybermen will appear in the Third Doctor range with the box sets. It's quite odd because they confirmed a Third Doctor Dalek story in Volume 3, but that's good. I won't say that's bad, that's good. But we want a bloody Cyberman story. Daleks are good, but we want a Cyberman story more. If it's a Dalek and a Cyberman story, then that will be a cracking release. But yeah, we want a Cyberman Third Doctor story more than a Third Doctor Dalek story, because there's no Cyberman Third Doctor stories. And this isn't really the Third Doctor face of the Cybermen because it's in the eyes of the companions. So, come on Big Finish, you know what to do. We want a Third Doctor Cyberman story. But hey, this one apparently is a very good one. Next one is Find and Replace by Paul Mars. Now I've heard this one is a cracking audio, and as well I've heard some stuff about the ending which is, you know, quite wow. So I'm gonna see what this ending is all about. I'm not too sure what it is, but yet this features Katie Manning playing Jo Grant and Iris Wildthyme. What is quite interesting, this actually references the Devil Goddess from Neptune as well, so, you know, quite nice Alice to throw that in. You know, I wonder, were they ever plan to adapt that? You know, were things go behind the scenes where they tried to get the license to adapt BBC books and they were going ahead with an adaptation of the Devil Goddess from Neptune? You know, it would have been nice. I don't think they were personally, but and since the Virgin adaptations are apparently concluded, which I think is a bad move, to be honest, because there's so many more potential adaptations to do, and it's a popular range. I personally don't think it's dead. I think when Big of a Finish have more ideas and they think about it, it'll probably pop up again, but that's just me being hopeful, really. The next Big Finish Companion Chronicle is the Time Museum. I do like the William Russell Companion Chronicles, I do. Well, I love the Companion Chronicles generally, I do. So yeah, that's the Time Museum by James Goss. Next we have The Flames, there we go, The Flames of Cadiz by Mark Platt. Yeah, this one isn't a 1-disc set, this one is 2 discs. So this one is a 4-parter. Yeah, The Flames of Cadiz, this will be very much like an early adventure story, but probably with like less narration, because you know these are focused as companion chronicles, whereas the early adventures, they're not. And as well, another difference between the early adventures and the companion chronicles, you know, it's less cast members. Yep, it is by Mark Platt, who's a Big Finish veteran, so you know it should be a classic. The penultimate Big Finish audio is The War to End All Wars by Simon Guerrier. And yeah, this one, I had to get this one to complete the Stephen trilogy, or the post-Stephen trilogy, where Stephen has left the Doctor. If you like Stephen as a companion and want to see where his companion ends up to after the Savages, then, you know, I recommend the First Doctor Companion Chronicle set and The War to End All Wars. Yeah, cannot wait to check this one out. As well as by the great writer Simon Guerrier, he just knows the 60s inside and out. He knows 60s Doctor Who and writes it to perfection, he does. You know, if you love your 60s Who, Simon Guerrier is your writer with the Big Finish audios. You know, it's guaranteed a classic. He's one of my favourites. And the last Big Finish audio, which is like an arc, really. And this features Zoe after her travels with the Doctor, and this is the last one within the arc, Second Chances. Yet the stories within the arc are Echoes of Grey by John Dorney, Memory Cheats by Simon Guerrier, The Uncertainty Principle, I do believe it's called, which is Simon Guerrier again, and then Second Chances by John Dorney. If you like Zoe and you want to see where a companion ends up after her travels with the Doctor, then I recommend this arc. And yeah, this is the final Companion Chronicle release before they like revived it. And yeah, very nice cover as well. Pretty creepy as well. So yeah, that's Second Chances by John Dorney. So now we're going to the Doctor Who books, and we've got a lot of BBC EDAs and PDA books. Now since I've got less EDAs than PDAs, we'll start with the EDAs first. So first EDA is Kusal by Peter Anglehedes. Yeah, if you know the EDAs, they are full of very big, complicated arcs like the Faction Paradox arc, the Sabbath arc and whatnot, but this one isn't connected to any arcs and it is standalone. Plus, no continuity in it as well, so it's a very easy book to get into, and a lot of people do suggest that it's one you should get into first when experiencing the EDAs, unless you want to read them in order. Yeah, this does sound like your typical classic Doctor Who story, and it looks like it would be quite a nice Hammer horror story as well. It sounds pretty good by the back bio. Looks like it has some fantastic atmosphere in this one as well. You know, the style of the EDAs is quite diversified, or mixed, marmite, inconsistent with people's opinions. The 8 Doctors, very split opinions. Vampire Science, again the same thing. Body Snatchers, generally good, but again some people will talk against it. Genocide, again the same thing. All the Daleks, pretty hated, and then Alien Bodies were very well loved. But yeah, quite a big book within the EDAs. This one, It seems it goes down as a good, just a generally good classic Doctor Who story, with no continuity in it, not a heavy Doctor Who book, just a classic 8th Doctor story. So, you know, that's quite nice and refreshing. So it'd be quite a nice book to get to in the Ultimate Book Marathon, because I'm not only just reading the EDAs in order, I've got another idea I have, which I'll discuss next year. I will, or in a few days actually. But yep, that is Casal. Next Doctor Who EDA book is by Michael Collier, and it is the introduction to Fitz, who is a main companion of the EDAs. And from this book, he's featured all the way to the end in the Gallifrey Chronicles. I'm talking about the Taint. And I'm really looking forward to this one. It'll probably be one of my honourable mentions, it will, that I'm most looking forward to. Sounds like a very X-Files, supernatural, paranormal Doctor Who story, with some very creepy and alien concepts to it. So I'm definitely looking forward to reading The Taint. You know, this sort of stuff, it's my cup of tea. I generally like this sort of storytelling, I do. Very basic cover, but yeah, it sells itself, it does. Yeah, one of my most anticipated Doctor Who books with the EDAs is in my honourable mentions, it is. Yeah, cannot wait to give this one a read. Not already familiar with the writer, not sure what he's really done, not sure if I've experienced anything by this writer right now, just nothing rings a bell to me really with this writer. But yeah, that's The Taint, the introduction of Fitz. And quite of a popular EDA. Seems this one, you know, it's in a lot of top 10s, a lot of top 20s, you know. When people talk about the EDAs, people say that this one is generally one of the best from the range, so it's very good reviews. Our next Doctor Who book. It was a nice feeling to finally own this, because like March 2014 I went to Comic Guru and I tracked down an Interference book, but it was Interference Book 2. I've owned Interference Book 2 but not Interference Book 1, and it's looked just weird on the shelf. But yeah, I now own Interference Book 1. Even though this is part of the EDA range which I'm least looking forward to, because it just looks, well, very difficult to get through. It would be a very onerous task to get through Interference, because it's 600 pages if you add both the books together. But hey, Lawrence Miles, it couldn't impress me, because as I said, Alien Bodies, you know, I nickname it the best book in the world because people seem to think that it's the best book in the world. So, you know, could surprise me. Yeah, this is like the landmarker where the faction paradox for a lot of people is just a complete and utter mess. Yeah, it's 309 pages approx. Now, if I'm doing an Interference review when I finally get to it, it'll go like this: Interference Book 1 review, Interference Book 2 review. I won't review both of them in the same video because the video will be 5 hours long, so, you know, I'm not doing that. I'm not. So, I'll review them separately. I think it's the way to do it, because my book reviews now are very long, they are. So yeah, that is Interference Book 1. It's been a long time when I've owned just Interference Book 2, but now I own Book 1, finally. Next EDA is The Blue Angel by Paul Mars and Jeremy Hode, and this is a story featuring Iris Wildthyme. Again, not one of the ones I'm particularly interested in, and I'm not really looking forward to. I think I preferred the premise to it compared to the Scarlet Empress, because I just don't like the sound of the Scarlet Empress, and Mad Dogs and Englishmen just sounds completely mad and bonkers. This one, it's got quite of an interesting premise behind it. It's got some Faction Paradox continuity in it as well. It's not officially a main Faction Paradox book though, but a very small description for this one. I could basically read this one to you now. As the Doctor becomes involved in affairs aboard the Federation starship Nepotist, his old friend Iris Wildthyme is rescuing old ladies who are being attacked by savage owls in a shopping mall. Well, that's Paul Mars for you in a nutshell, that is. And in a cat's cradle of interdimensional corridors lies the Volson City of Glass, whose king awaits the return of his angel son and broods over the oncoming war. Doesn't give you much, really. Seems to get very average reviews, this one. But I'm not really despising the sound of it. Yeah, it doesn't really give anything away, it just keeps it rather, well, locked up, really. So yeah, that is The Blue Angel. Next book, this is by Justin Richard and a very popular Doctor Who EDA. Actually, a lot of people's favourite from the range, really. One of the top 10, very popular. And it follows from The Crazy Ancestor Cell, where the Doctor loses his memory, gets amnesia for the billionth time, and it is The Burning. Very simple cover, but with the flame, you know, it just makes it that much effective, it does, because that image is just used hundreds of times in this, but very effective cover. Really do like it, really do love the sound of the story as well. The Burning sound like a very creepy, mysterious villain. It's well, very odd that they're in time 0 when it's a very cold book. Yeah, think of it as hot ice does make a little bit more sense, but again, it looks like a very cold book, so interesting contrast. But yeah, The Burning just goes down very well. Some people do complain that Justin Richard doesn't really go out of the box a lot. But like I said, you don't really need to go out of the box to deliver a story. As it seems like Justin Richard does pull off a lot of classics. Demontage, The Burning, Grave Matter. You don't need to pull off a good story, but if you want to read something a bit more experimental, then, you know, Justin Richard isn't really the person. Yeah, that is The Burning, a very popular EDA, and starts off the Earth arc. So we've had the start of the Earth arc, now we have the end of the Earth arc, and a lot of people say it's quite of an anticlimax and quite of a dull EDA compared to the other books within, well, the Earth arc really, which features The Burning, Casualties of War, the Turing Test, Endgame, Father Time, and then ending it off, Escape Velocity by Colin Brake. You know, a very common opinion I've sort of like noticed with Colin Brake. A lot of people just find his stories very dull. You know, people say he's a dull writer, his ideas, you know, they're just not really that investing, that engaging, and just this whole book just turns out to be rather dull and bland. And it's boring. You know, that's a very popular opinion when it comes to Colin Brake. Though I have listened to, well, I have experienced some of his stuff. I have, like, J1 Life at Series 5, the Bloodchild Codex, which I think is pretty good. The story, again, there's different writing techniques compared to audios and books. But it seems with the books, he's not really well appreciated. Not a lot of people really like his style, and it just comes off very dull, boring, and not very investing or engaging. But it seems like a very popular opinion that this is the worst in the Earth arc, because this does conclude the Earth arc, and this does events just go into Earthworld. This is the end of the Earth arc, and it just seems to be an anticlimax, because all the other stories within the Earth arc are generally regarded as some of the best EDA books out of the entire range, and it just ends with this shit stain pretty much. And your next EDA follows on after Escape Velocity, and you don't need the Earth arc for Earthworld, you don't. It's Earthworld by Jacqueline Rayner, again a very popular writer. A lot of people appreciate this writer. You know, she's done the Marion Conspiracy with the big finishers, and I personally like that one a lot. Wolfsbane, a lot of classics to her name. So she put this in the middle, there we go. Yeah, I've got the original, of course. I will get the reprint eventually if I decide to get all the 50th anniversary reprints and the Monster Collection and the History Collection, but EDA and PDA books are a target now, because I want to get these books out of the way. I want to get the Virgin books, the main Virgin books, and the main BBC books out of the way so I can focus on the hardbacks and the Telos novellas, or the Telos books in general really, or the Telos Deluxe books to be more specific. But yeah, Earthworld, kind of an odd choice because it's actually not a popular book. You know, it's quite, a lot of people say it's an underrated book, and out of all the 50th anniversary books, Earthworld seems to get beaten up the most compared to the other EDA books, with 10 Little Aliens quite close to second. Personally, quite of an odd choice, not that it follows after the Earth arc, but why not do Year of the Intelligent Tigers, or even Flippin' Alien Bodies if you wanted to? Or why not The Crooked World, or something like that by Steve Lyons? Very odd choice because it's not really one of the most popular EDA books. It's still regarded as a good book, but compared to the other ones, this one just gets overshadowed, I would say. But yeah, quite a nice cover. And that is Earthworld by Jacqueline Rayner. Next EDA is by a writer which I fear, because he's even worse than Paul Mars in my opinion. Even more wacky, crazy and absurd ideas. It is a Dave Stone novel, and it's The Slow Empire. Now, I think this one's just a forgotten book in the EDAs. I don't see not a lot of discussion on it. One thing I heard about this one, not a lot of people like the format or how the book is structured, and that's with all Dave Stone books. I can tell by the writing, the text, and how it's formatted. You know, there's a style to Dave Stone books, and you either love it or hate it. He's just a Marmite writer. I can say from my experience, I did get it, but it can go a little bit over your head, it can. It can be a little bit complex, like Paul Leonard a little bit, but still. As I said, you either love it or hate him. Yeah, that's The Slow Empire by Dave Stone, and a pretty crappy cover. Really, well, didn't really need to have this effect on. I can see what they're trying to do, you know, to slow down time and to make it a little bit of a fade. Next EDA is the 100th BBC Doctor Who novel, Mad Dogs and Englishmen by Paul Mars. I love dogs, man's best friend, but with this story, Mad Dogs and Englishmen, it's a complete twist, where the dogs are the enemies and they are not man's best friend, and the dogs are the rulers of the world, which have guns and smoke and talking pink poodles. It does sound utterly bombastic, crazy, and just absolutely insane. It does seem to split the crowd, this one. People love it or people hate it. And to be honest, I'm sort of intrigued by it, by now holding the book and now reading the bio. I was saying to myself, it might not be as bad as I'm expecting it to be. I might get some enjoyment out of it. Just the thing to go in with Paul Mars books is to not think of it as a serious book, but go into it as a fun book. So maybe that is what I'm gonna do, and maybe I'll have some enjoyment with Mad Dogs and Englishmen, but still a Scarlet Empress is something which doesn't intrigue me. But by looking at this story a little bit more, I wouldn't put it in the top 5 EDA books which I'm not looking forward to. I'll move it away from that now. The next EDA, are quite a popular EDA by many. A lot of people rate it in their top 10, top 5, or even their best EDA. This is a Steve Lyon book, and it is Crooked World. I like the unique cover. There's like an animation, cartoon characters. You would think that this one would be a nice, fun, witty story, not serious. But I've heard like the story and the concept to it is actually a pretty dark story, but you know, the cover doesn't really allude to that. Neither does the bio. Not sure if that's the Mystery Machine by there. This will no doubt have references to like cartoon shows and whatnot, so that'd be quite nice to experience in this novel. Good chapter points with this one as well. It's going to be an interesting read, again quite late in the EDA range. It'll be quite some time before we get to it and I'll review it on the channel. But it seems like it's an awful lot of fun plus serious at the same time, and Steve Lyon just adds both these elements together really well, so this should be a cracking one. The next EDA is by Paul Leonard, and you know, a very complex and difficult writer to understand. You know, you either love him or hate him. His style is The Last Resort. Yeah, I definitely don't recommend jumping to this one. It can possibly be even more complex than Jim Mortimer. His stories are like a matrix order. And so even if you know the fundamentals to the Sabbath arc, this one again can just throw you through a loop. I've heard this one isn't that good, but it's quite a big landmark in the EDA range and the Sabbath arc, as it reveals Sabbath's true agenda. Yeah, not sure why there's so many TARDISes on the cover. There's 16 in total, so that might be something quite significant to the story. Also have this UFO, or this massive spaceship mothership at the top. Very nice, effective cover, I do like it. Yes, Sabbath is a very ambiguous character, especially at this point, because it says by here only Sabbath can save the day. So, you know, is he an enemy? Is he an ally? Who is he? You know, This character goes for a loop, this whole book goes for a loop essentially. Can be very confusing. And yeah, I don't recommend jumping on this one straight away. For the penultimate EDA, this one's kind of an expensive one, like, I don't know, 20 quid I think on Amazon. And it isn't one of the most popular EDA books. It's actually, for a lot of people, or some people actually, one of the weakest. Emotional Chemistry by Simon A. Forward, the same writer who did Drift, as well as The Sandman by Big Finish. Yeah, by the cover it seems like time is like falling apart as we have like past, present and futuristic elements in one book. Not dreading it, but not looking forward to it either. But I think the past, present and futuristic elements being utilised into one book, into one place in time, is kind of an interesting idea. To see futuristic warfare and tactics against past technology and tactics and whatnot, seems like an interesting idea, and by the cover it looks like it would be quite a war book, a heavy war book. Quite long chapters, but yep, that is Emotional Chemistry by Simon A. Forward. And final EDA before we go to the PDAs, I actually have one of the EDAs I'm most looking forward to. It's my second EDA I'm most looking forward to, and it's very late in the range. It's by Jonathan Morris, and it is the Tomorrow Windows. It seems like in the late EDAs, like the last part of it, there's like 3 creepy stories following on from each other. Tomorrow Windows, Sleeper Reason, and then Denstone Memorial all have horror-based elements to it, so that's quite nice. This is one of my favourite covers, and it's definitely pretty disturbing as well. I've heard it's actually got some like comedic elements in this one, so hopefully Jonathan Morris does that with justice, because I know with me personally his specialty comes with his bleak stories. I haven't seen a lot of horror based stories by him, so that it's going to be quite interesting actually. I've only experienced The Cloisters of Terror, which was great until the sci-fi elements kicked into gear. I wasn't really a fan of it. It'd be nice to see like a true based horror story done by Jonathan Morris. It should be quite intriguing. I've heard some pretty interesting stuff about this book. Apparently there is some issue with copyright with this one, but I'm not sure what it is, so I'm not going to say anything because I'm actually not too sure what it is, but just search it up and it might come up. And as well, apparently the planet the Doctor and the companions on is quite big, quite a surprise, so, and I don't know what that is, I'm not going to spoil myself. Just have to wait until we get to it, which will probably be like a year or two. Yep, that's the Tomorrow Window. Sounds good, looks quite creepy. It should be a good book. And yep, I only need 15 more EDA books now, so pretty much almost completed the range. So now we will move to the PDA books. So now we're to the BBC PDA books. Now, yeah, as I said, only 15 EDAs are required now. I was going to have Bell Tempest, but apparently the condition was absolutely awful, apparently. So I got a replacement for that, but that'll be coming shortly soon. But anyway, to the PDA books. Now, as I said, I've got more PDA books than EDA books for this collection update. So the first PDA is Business Unusual by Gary Russell. Yep, this is a 6th Doctor story featuring the Autons as the villain. It does sound like a pretty good Doctor Who book, this one. It's the 2nd story within the Pale Man trilogy. We got the return of the Brigadier, we have the introduction of Mel, and the story with CNET does sound pretty interesting, and that is an anagram for Nestine, that is. Now I do hope Gary Russell does the Autons with justice. I do find them quite visual monsters, but again I hope this is a good book because Synthespians, well, to put it very simply, a load of shit. Yeah, hopefully this book does the Autons with justice and it will be another good book within the Pale Man trilogy. As I've heard, Skeleton Justice, which I already have, is very good. And this one does get some good reviews, but some people do talk quite, thinny on it, but it's quite an average, iffy book. Not a lot of people, some people don't really like it, so quite split, but I think the overall opinion is that it's a liked Doctor Who book. So that's Business Unusual, one of the early ones, as you can tell by the cover. But it does sound pretty good, and some of the stuff does, interest me, like CNET, the new interactive game coming out, which is really expensive. It does sound a little bit like Wheel of the Daleks a little bit, so sounds very interesting. Hopefully, it's not a Synthespians. Next book, lovely to have it in my collection. One of the most interesting PDAs from the range, I would say, is The Face of the Enemy by David A. McKenzie. Yet the story runs parallel to The Curse of Peladon. So when the Face of the Enemy is happening on Earth, the Doctor and Joe are at Peladon in the story The Curse of Peladon. So this one runs parallel to it. And here the main cast we have in this one is the Brigadier, the unit team, the Master, and as well Ian and Barbara, which is pretty interesting. I hope they interact with Unit and interact with the Brigadier, because that will be just something quite incredible. This one does sound pretty damn incredible, this one. It's by David A. McKenzie, who's a very loved writer. And a lot of people do really like this novel, and it's very well rated on Amazon. So yet that is The Face of the Enemy. And yet the Doctor isn't featured in this at all, but I think he's either in just the prologue or the epilogue, so I'm just going to have a check now. Yeah, the Doctor is in the prologue of this, and then he's not featured in the story at all, so it's a Doctor-like episode. It's just something like Birthright from the Virgin New Adventures, for example. It runs parallel. As with Birthright, it runs parallel to Iceberg, but this runs parallel to The Curse of Peladon. So the BBC Books wanted to do a take on a parallel story which runs on another Doctor Who story, just like Birthright and Iceberg. So yeah, Face of the Enemy. Next book, I purchased this before, but it got lost in the post, but I've got it for Christmas now, and it's Catastrophia by Terrance Dicks. Yep, as you can see, it features the Draconians. I actually just forgot their name for a split second there. Yeah, Catastrophia, Third Doctor Joe story, and I think the Draconians are the main bad guys in this? I'm not too sure, don't quote me on that. Yep, this one's quite a thin book, about 240 pages, one of the more thinner PDA books. But I like the short chapters. I know I quite like short chapters, I do. Yep, reviews, I'm not too sure what people think of this book, the general consensus, and as well where the story takes place. Is this where the build-up of the human and Draconian war starts? Is it after Frontier in Space? I don't really know, to be honest, so maybe someone can help me out there in the comments, or I'll just check on TARDIS Wiki. Yeah, that's Catastrophia, which I would like to read someday, because it's a nice quick read and a short book. The next PDA book, this is featured after the Three Doctors. Yeah, this is the first story where the Doctor has his freedom and is no longer exiled. It is The Wages of Sin by David A. McKenzie once again. Yeah, one thing about David A. McKenzie books, they always seem very intriguing when you look at them. Yeah, the story is featured in Russia, and we actually have a real picture of Rasputin. This is actually a real photo of Rasputin on this cover. And we've got a nice bonus. We have good old Liz Shaw, the underrated companion she is, with Joe, so there'll be some interesting interactions there with Joe and Liz Shaw. Again, this one's quite of a short book, and the chapters are pretty good with this one. Again, not long chapters, and I like that with Doctor Who books. Sounds intriguing, short Doctor Who book, should be a good read. The next PDA book, this is a sequel, a follow-up story to System Shock, and it's by Justin Richards. It is Millennium Shock. Quite a nice cover. The Fourth Doctor blended in and the snake looks a little bit standard, not one of my favourite covers. This looks like it took like 5 minutes to do. You know, that's quite insulting to the cover artist. But yeah, this feels like it was just made in Photoshop in like 5-10 minutes, just add a snake there. The Fourth Doctor, an abstract circuit board, and then the logo and the writing. I think they could have done more to make the cover a little bit more snazzy, but I'm complaining too much here. I love the sound of System Shock, and I love the sound of Millennium Shock. You know, technology, I love all this sort of stuff. I'm looking forward to it because it is simply the sequel to System Shock. Of course, I will read System Shock before going into Millennium Shock. Should be a good one. Yep, that's Millennium Shock by Justin Richards. Next book, again a sequel to another Doctor Who book, which is The Murder Game, featuring Salations. It is written by Steve Lyons, again a very loved Doctor Who book, and it is The Final Sanction. Like the water effect on this cover, it looks very nice. Yeah, I do intend to read The Murder Game and The Final Sanction. Yeah, I had 3 PDA books which I wanted to read after the disaster of Synthespians, I had 3 books in my mind which I wanted to read, which was Grave Matter, Drift, and The Murder Game. And I'm probably going to add this one on as well because, well, it's a sequel to it's a sequel to The Murder Game, so it would make sense to read this one after The Murder Game. I've heard The Murder Game goes like this. It's a murder mystery, then it gets into a base under siege story, but this is the action-packed story. Next PDA book, again a sequel to another story, this time a TV story by Chris Boucher, and it is The Robots of Death. This is of course the original copy of Corpse Marker, which again is by Chris Boucher. Have a lot of recurring characters which were from the original story, The Robots of Death, and are now they're in Corpse Marker. I hope this one doesn't fail. So yeah, Corpse Marker, the original by Chris Boucher. Next PDA book, and this is by Mark Gatiss. It is Last of the Gathering. You know, when Mark Gatiss wants to be, he can be a very good writer, and I mean a very good writer. Nightshade, in my opinion, is just one of the greatest books I've ever read, and one of my favourite Doctor Who stories of all time. You know, that's really saying something of a Mark Gatiss story, and his, you know, a lot of people say his books really do shine, and his most popular stories are Nightshade and Last of the Gathering. You know, this, people praise it a lot. You know, with his TV stories, he falls flat, and I think he shines more as a writer with the books. So we have an epic, thrilling and exciting Pertwee book here, but then the next one is a rather insane and crazy Third Doctor story. It's Verdigris. This time, it's written by Paul Mars, featuring Iris Wildthyme. Very psychedelic cover, again quite simple. Yeah, I've heard this story is one of the maddest Doctor Who books in the PDA range. Yeah, this will definitely be a bonkers Doctor Who book. I'm not going to go into it thinking it's going to be a dark and serious story, but as a light-hearted Doctor Who story. But a lot of people say that this is not good. Get some praise, get some defense, but there's quite a few 1-star ratings for this story. Not a lot of people actually like this one. Imperial Moon by Christopher Bulis. Yep, just the concept of it. Space travel has already been achieved at an earlier point in time, but this time it was achieved during the Victorian times. So yeah, that's Imperial Moon by Christopher Bulis, who can be quite a hit and miss writer. Some people like him. Next book, I've already got this one, but I now have the original of it. And I have experienced this book before, and I do recommend it. It's a great paradoxical story, and you know, Jonathan Morris doesn't really touch on that area a lot. But yeah, I've learned that Jonathan Morris is good by doing any sort of story, really. Comedy is something which can be a little bit iffy, personally, with me, because I think he just works with more darker and bleaker stories. I'm talking about the Festival of Death. The premise to it is just magnificent, that the Fourth Doctor arrives after a disaster which happened on the planet, but victory is already being made. The problem has been sorted out. However, there's a little bit of a twist to it, as the way the Doctor did it was by sacrificing himself. So then the Fourth Doctor has to avoid that from happening and try to change the events which are already have happened and taken place. But the problem is, he didn't know how he solved the problem, so you know, it takes a really complicated turn in the book. It's very interesting. So the Doctor has no choice but to travel back in time to see what he has done, and then he has to stop that from happening. It's a marvellous adventure. It's been quite a while since I read the book, and I would rate it very highly. And I would definitely read it again, because now I have the original. Next PDA book, this one can really split opinions, and it is the Continuity Overload book, because there is so much continuity in this book, it's practically bloody silly. It is The Quantum Archangel by the man, and the one to go to for continuity wanking is no other than Craig Hinton's story, The Quantum Archangel. Yep, this is a sequel to The Time Monster. Yep, just like Time's Champion, this throws villains to you, it throws continuity to you, it throws so much at your face. It is pretty much continuity overload. It's Bullet Time by David A. McKenzie. Yeah, a David A. McKenzie book, and I did say that all his books, they intrigue you and you want to find out more about them and you want to read them. Yep, looks like I was wrong with that, because Bullet Time, yeah, this is the only David A. Mackenzie book which does not intrigue me. Actually, I don't really want to read this one. The 7th Doctor, as I've heard, actually is quite lighter in the story. Yeah, the bio sounds flat, the story doesn't interest me. Don't really want to read this one anytime soon, to be honest, but yep, that's Bullet Time. If anyone's read Bullet Time, tell me what you think about it, because I'm a little bit iffy about it. Our next book, now we're going to a book which I do like the sound of, because it does sound a little bit experimental and just quite different compared to other Doctor Who books, and maybe very imaginative, by Christopher Bulis, which you don't see a lot of. It is Palace of the Red Sun. The bio sounds pretty good, sounds quite political as well, which is nice because I think the 6th Doctor works in political stories very well. I think the best Doctors which work in political stories is the 3rd Doctor and the 6th Doctor. So yeah, that's Palace of the Red Sun by Christopher Bulis. Hopefully it will turn out how reviewers are stating it. I've got this one as a reprint, the 50th anniversary reprint I've got, but now I have the original. Haven't read this one because I think the bad opinions have put me off a little bit, but some people will say it's underrated or underappreciated, really. I think it gets overshadowed. 10 Little Aliens by Stephen Cole, but my main reason is I am not really a fan of Stephen Cole's writing. For me, it just comes across very damn flat. Land of the Dead was just such a bore. Yet Stephen Cole, he has quite a mixed reputation. Parallel 59 was absolutely hated when it came out, and it still is hated to this day. Vanishing Point, I do think it's called. You know, it tried to justify itself that Parallel 59's elements were good, and to try and make them more understandable, because it basically uses the same elements but uses them slightly different to prove to the reader that they're actually good. And what's quite funny, but that book didn't go down either, so it looked like Stephen Cole's idea of Parallel 59, you know, it didn't work at all. Who talks about To the Slaughter? It's just a shadow in the EDA range. But it is a very popular book, and it was printed in the history collection. It is A Morality Tale by David Bishop, a 3rd Doctor story featuring Sarah Jane Smith. This one apparently was underrated. I mean, a lot of people didn't talk about it, it didn't get the recognition it deserved, but since it's been republished as a history collection, people have picked it up, they read it, and they said, holy crap, this is a bloody good book. So it looks like back in the day, this had the enemy of the world situation. People just never looked at it, and it didn't get the credit that it deserved, but when it did get republished, people checked it out, and it was actually good. So this one was just like a huge shadow in the PDA range, but since it's been reprinted, people have acknowledged the book and it seems to go down well, so that's, you know, very nice. So it's no longer a shadow in the PDA range. It sounds good, it sounds very gritty, and David Bishop, he can do gritty stories very well, so I'm excited and intrigued. Next book, another 3rd Doctor book, a lot of 3rd Doctor PDAs here. It is The Son of Koresh by Poor Saint, which is kind of a unknown name to me. Nothing rings a bell by Poor Saint. I think this is his only contribution to the PDA books. Actually, BBC books generally, can't think of any Virgin books, I can't think of any books. He might have done some short trips, but nothing really rings a bell with this writer. The bio sounds pretty good, don't know too much on it story-wise, but I know that it does have a few good action scenes in it. You know, that works for the good old Pertwee, that does. Yep, that's The Son of Koresh The Sons of Koresh by Poor Saint. Again, you don't see a lot of discussion on this one, but I've seen some good stuff on it, good reviews. Now to the penultimate PDA. Again, got the reprint, now got the original, haven't read this one, but it does sound good, does sound creepy. Fear of the Dark by Trevor Baxendale. By thinking of 5th Doctor horror stories, not a lot actually comes to the mind, so it's nice that a writer's done like a 5th Doctor horror story. Hopefully it delivers. And the final PDA book, this was an animated Doctor Who adventure. There's also as a book, it is Scream of the Shallka, which is by Paul Cornell. I would say I only wanted this for collection purposes and not really for a story to read. Haven't experienced the animation, haven't experienced the story at all, it just doesn't really interest me. You know, not sure what people's opinions, my viewers' opinions are on the Scream of the Shallka book, as well as the animation. I don't actually own the DVD on animation, so maybe I'll give it a chance. So they were all the BBC books, that was the main bulk now. Now we've got the W.H. Allen hardbacks now, but I forgot to say that I've got a few miscellaneous books as well, and a Target book. And then after that we'll go into the rare entries, plus a little nice announcement at the end to finish and conclude the Showcase series for 2016. The two miscellaneous books I got was Doctor Whom by A.R.R.R. Roberts and A Teaspoon and an Open Mind, The Science of Doctor Who by Michael White. Yeah, this book here, this one's a hardback. There's actually a hardback variant of Doctor Who as well, but I accidentally ordered the paperback rather than the hardback, so I'll probably pick up the hardback. I will. Yeah, this book I don't know too much about, but I heard it's actually a very bad book. It's got some terrible reviews on it, because it doesn't really feel like a Doctor Who book, but a science book, yes. No, it's very good if you like physics and all that sort of stuff in that area. But as a Doctor Who book, people say it's not a Doctor Who book, so, you know, what gives? Yeah, I've got it for collection purposes. As yeah, I am gonna, well, attempt to get every single Doctor Who book. Yeah, ambitious. I think I'm capable of doing it. It's just, it's probably going to take about, I don't know, 25 years. Honestly, I don't know how long it's going to take me. Because of course new books are being released all the time. I'm just going to go with the flow really and see where it ends me at. And then Doctor Who, which got the paperback. I do want to get the hardback over this. Yep, two miscellaneous books. Doctor Who and The Science of Doctor Who. I will get the hardback of this to replace it. Well, I'll probably keep the paperback, won't get rid of it, but I want to get the hardback. Now before we do the W.H. Allen hardbacks, let's do this quick Target book. I've only got one, but this one is quite a pricey one and I was surprised to get it. Yep, it's a rare Target book, so what is it? Macro Terror? Wheel in Space? Smugglers? It's Doctor Who, Canine and Company by Terence Dudley. Yep, this is a novelisation on something which is not appreciated at all, really. I've never seen Canine and Company. Nice to have it because it's expensive and I didn't need to pay for it myself. Yeah, the companion books are sort of expensive, they are really, generally. Nice to own it. So yeah, another Target book to add to the collection. And yeah, I do have a lot of Target books now, Target novelisations. Nice to add this one. Now let's do the W.H. Allen hardbacks. Now these would be hardbacks which you wouldn't think would be in this showcase. You would think of W.H. Allen hardbacks, Target hardbacks, but no, these aren't Target hardbacks. These are like miscellaneous hardbacks, we should say. And I got 3 of them. So first one is The Key to Time, standard hardback. Now you're probably saying, TJ, you already have this, you have the deluxe. Yeah, I do have the deluxe, and to be honest, it is one of the most gorgeous Doctor Who books of all time. I'll just show you now. Yep, here it is in all its glory. And here's the standard, so why did I get the standard when I got the deluxe? This is going to be the reading copy. Yeah, it's a lovely book to have. I've already gone through this in my Ultimate Showcase, because I showcased the deluxe item as that appeared in the Ultimate Showcase, and it's the most valuable Doctor Who book in my entire collection, and it's limited to 1,000 copies. So you can pick your poison, what you want to hunt down. You can hunt down the hardback, the paperback, the Virgin reprint, or the deluxe. Yeah, this is a dust jacket, this one is, as you can see. And there's the back. That's very nice artwork, that is. W.H. Allen hardback, my reading copy, as I'm not going to read the deluxe. Next, this will probably be one of my most favourite books in my entire collection, to be honest, because I love the 60s and I love the William Hartnell era. This book in deluxe, it's one of the hardest books to ever get. It's in the top 5, it is. And I have The early years. W.H. Allen hardback, the standard hardback, not the deluxe. That would be bloody lovely, but I know because it hasn't even appeared on eBay, so how can I obtain it? Got the early years hardback standard edition. This deluxe item, if it's a deluxe, is in the top 5 of the rarest Doctor Who books of all time. Overall difficulty, it will go for a crazy, stupid amount of money. And from what I've gathered, it's only appeared on eBay once. And it's on another website now called ABC Books, and it's listed for like 500 quid. Yeah, the most rarest books of all time, I mean overall difficulty, not just like printing, but overall difficulty. These are the rarest books. Glory of the Daleks, the Eye of the Tiger Anniversary Edition, which I was still saying now it's probably the hardest book to ever get. The Cyberman Collector's Edition, the Early Years Deluxe item, and the 2 60s William Hartnell books, activity books, which are pretty much impossible to get now. And one of them went for like 256 quid bid. Those books I listed are like the top dogs. Those are the rarest Doctor Who books of all time. And right now I don't own any of those books. Hopefully I own one of them. In the coming future, in 2017, let's see. I would love to own the deluxe of this one, because if you're a 60s fan, more specifically if you're a William Hartnell fan, fall in love with this book because it just covers the William Hartnell era. You know, it covers all the stories, the cast, the crew, the serial, the production credits. Bits on the story of how they were made, who it was written by, changes, adaptations to the script. Brilliant production shots. Comics, I think that is featured in like the first Dalek novel, or Dalek Annual. And we've got the Keys of Marinus, set designs. It's basically your guide to the William Hartnell era. Covers everything. And like how they made it, petrified jungle there as well. If you love the 60s, you have to get it, there's no question about it, you've got to get this. If you're a 60s fan and you don't have this, then what are you doing? Get it. Pick your poison. If you can, hunt down the deluxe when it's physically impossible now. Just get the standard. Hunt it down. Get it however you can. Just pick it up. And the final W.H. Allen hardback is 25 Glorious Years by Peter Heyman. This one didn't get a deluxe, like the early years and the Key to Time. I love the early years, I already got the Key to Time. Love doing the Celebration one as well. Yeah, this just covers 25 years of Doctor Who, from the first Doctor era to the second Doctor era, covering villains, popular stories, even the unofficial Doctor Who books like fanzines. Got some stuff on Douglas Adams and also the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Brilliant concept art as well. It's a brilliant book, this one is. So that's the 25 Glorious Years, but if you're a 60s fan, you need that. So yep, now to the rare entries that I'm going to be showcasing. I've got 4 things to showcase, and I'll put them in rarity order. 3 of them are books, 1 of them isn't. And I'm going to show the one which isn't first. I'll showcase this one right now, won't give it any suspense. Lovely to have it because I'm showcasing something rare which actually isn't a book. And it's this. This is a limited edition box set which includes 20 actually exclusive prints. Yep, this is limited to 1963 when Doctor Who started up, and my number is 471. Yep, lovely to have it. Came out in 2013. Lovely addition to the collection. I'll just quickly show you the prints inside here and just play music in the background like how I did the 1971 annual. So to the music. So yeah, they were the prints, very high quality prints. I'll probably keep them in here, but if I ever get around to it, I'll probably buy a second one and put these posters up, but I like to leave it all in here and treat it as a collector's item, really. Nope, we are not done with the rare entries. We've got the Doctor Who books, and if you know me, I showcase Doctor Who books in the Showcase series now. I'm known as the Mad Collector, and I get these books with ease. But that doesn't mean I have trouble with Doctor Who books. It's true, I do have trouble with some Doctor Who books, and as of now, I'm having trouble tracking down some of the Telos novellas. And you know my problem with Sovar Sin. But yeah, I've got 3 Doctor Who books to showcase you. I got all these during December, 2 of them by myself, and 1 of them as a Christmas present. So, the first Doctor Who book. I got this for £6 on Amazon. Yeah, I am planning to track down all these Doctor Who books, and some of them are going to be a pain in the ass, I'm not going to lie, because they take an awful long time to appear on the internet because of their print number. And that's why they're quite valuable books, not the most valuable Doctor Who books of all time, and yet you probably know what I mean, so I'm going to showcase it. So yes, the first rare Doctor Who book I tracked down, it is a Telos book. It is a Telos Novella Deluxe hardback of Frayed. Yes, I have now got my 5th Telos Deluxe. I have got Time and Relative, Citadel of Dreams, Wonderland, and Shell Shock. Again, don't bother with the standard ones, it's just easy to get, really. There's no fun, there's no challenge. Yep, true, you are paying more for the same book, but I think it's just more fun to track down the deluxe books. The standard ones are just so flat. Yeah, I believe Frayed is limited to 800 copies, but I'm not sure because it doesn't say. You see, I have no sticker, so I have no idea what it's limited to. We have 3 signatures there. If anyone knows the limited edition number of Frayed, then that'll be very helpful, but I think it's 800, but I cannot be sure. There's the forward, and there's the concept art. Yeah, I think the Telos novellas are really fun to track down, they are. So I need 10 more now. I haven't seen a deluxe hardback of Riptide whatsoever this year. I don't think it's appeared at all in 2016. So to the second book I will be showcasing. This one I got for £12. I did miss it once. I forgot to order it, and it was on eBay, but the time ran out on it and I completely missed it, and the seller never listed it again. Not quite sure why, but it was just gone. Maybe he thought that no one was going to buy it. I thought I wasn't going to get this book for the Christmas collection update, as it was originally going to be in the collection, the Christmas collection update, sorry, but yeah, it looks like it turned up somewhere else, but this time not on eBay, but Amazon. And it's a limited edition hardbound copy of a Doctor Who book known as Drabble Who, edited by David J. Howell and David B. Wake. This was originally on eBay for 30 quid, then it was lowered to 15 quid. I thought, bargain, definitely going to get that, have a rare book to add to the collection, but the time ran out on it and I thought, crap, I've missed out on it. But it appeared on Amazon for 12 quid, picked it up. Yeah, Drabble Who, it takes its time to appear, but when it does appear, it won't go for a lot of money. It won't. It's a waiting game book, like most of the Target hardbacks. When it appears, it won't really go for a lot of money. And the reason why Drabble Who won't go for a lot of money is simply because it's not a known Doctor Who book. I mean, when people talk about Doctor Who books, Drabble Who, you know, some people don't even know this book would even existed until I showcased it, or when I revealed it in my rarest document list. They probably thought, never heard of Drabble Who before. Yeah, it's a collection book, it is, but not really of short stories. But they're drabbles, they are, which are like 100-word stories, they are. Yeah, mine is... camera's freaking out. Mine is 72. Bloody lighting. It's gonna do it? Nope. Mine is 72 out of 1,000. And you see each story is like a page long, really, just a 100-word story. A nice little book to have it is. I got it for collection purposes, I will. I'll probably check out the little short drabbles. And we have some familiar names like Mark Morris. We have the First Doctor stories. Very nice little put together book. Let's see if I recognise any of these names. Nigel Robinson, recognise him. We have the Second Doctor. Kate Orman. Victor Pemberton. Peter Lane. Peter Darville Evans, who was the head of the Virgin Books, Paul Cornell, John Peel, Gary Russell, Keith Toppin, Sophie Aldred, Jim Mortimore. A few of these are just fans, they are. Doctor Who fans. Ian Stewart Black, Chris Boucher, John Nathan Turner. A lot of familiar names in this book, but a lot of fans as well. A lot of fan written drabbles. Another rare book to add to the collection. Now we have the final Doctor Who book to showcase. The final book I will be showcasing in the showcase series for 2016. Now what can it possibly be? As I said, this has been going in rarity order. And this one, oh boy, it's a big one. So to help you out a little bit, Frayed and Double Who. Just think of books which are more rarer than these two. So I've wanted this book, and for quite some time it was originally going to be planned to be in the Ultimate Showcase, and people did think that it should have been in the Ultimate Showcase, but it wasn't. And people were quite surprised when it wasn't. And yet people were pretty surprised when it did not appear. And it was one of the top talked about. So right now you're probably thinking, I know what TJ is alluding to here. So then, ladies and gentlemen, Doctor Who fanatics, mad collectors of the Doctor Who books, I present to you the final book I will be showcasing in the Showcase series for 2016. The last Doctor Who book is no other than Doctor Who Soval's Sin. Yeah, again, I was being a complete bloody dick then, because I was alluding to the Auton invasion a little bit there, so sorry for being a bit of a dick, but no. I got something even better in my opinion. I have finally, after so long of having problems, issues with it, I have finally got this fucking book. This elusive bastard. It's been running away from me. It didn't want to be in my collection. It didn't want me. Soval's Sin was being a complete elusive bastard. And that's why I nickname it the elusive bastard of the Doctor Who books, because it did not want to be in my collection. But I finally have it. And that completes the Virgin New Adventures. I have now completed the main Virgin range, the Virgin New Adventures, and boy does it feel great. Just so long. And this always seems to happen. This does. You know, I had a massive problem with Master. Lost in the post so many times, it was a disaster. But then So Far As Sin was even worse. And I've lost bids so many times. I've lost 3 bids on this book, and then after that, it just disappeared from the internet without a trace. Just gone. So Far As Sin just pulled the middle finger at me and say, nope, you're not. I'm not going in your collection. You've got enough rare books. I don't understand how this caused me so much problems, but it did. I just didn't want to pay like 100 quid for it, or 70 quid for it, or even 50. I thought I was just pushing it. But no, I finally got it now, and I can't argue. I feel so grateful, and I was just blown away that this was one of my Christmas presents. Again, it makes no sense of why I couldn't hunt it down, but now I finally have. Maybe it's just me, but since someone else did it for me, as a Christmas gift, I don't have to worry about hunting down this book. Oh, but don't worry, this will happen again. This always happens. First it was Master, which took a bloody year to get. So Far As Sin, which again, took a fucking year to get. What'll be next? Autumn Invasion? Riptide? Who knows? But it's gonna happen again. I guarantee it. It's in gorgeous condition. Pristine, to be honest. There's no damage on it at all. But, oh, I've got some sad stories to say about this one. I even stayed up at 3 o'clock in the morning because there was a bid going on it, and I didn't want to, put a bid on it and just leave it. I wanted a bid on it, and I was awake for like 3 a.m. trying to get it because this So Far As Sin was from the States, and I lost the bid for it. And God, that was terrible. I got some sad stories with So Far As Sin. It was just a nightmare. An absolute nightmare. But here we go. The final Doctor Who book, and I think it feels so suitable to be the final Doctor Who book to showcase, because no, it's not the rarest. It would have been obvious that I'll be showcasing the rarest Doctor Who book in my collection here, but no, I still haven't got anything rare at the moment than my Talos Deluxe Talkback Hardback of the 80s. That's still the rarest book in my collection, plus it's the original, the first one ever printed. But this had to be showcased last, because I've had the most problems with it and the most trouble. Let's do one more thing and add this to the shelf. But before we do that, I've got a little announcement, and it's to do with the film reels. Yes, I have got more, and they're right there. I've got 3 at the moment, 3 new, and I've got 7 content unknown film reels to come. As I said, I got 3 of them at the moment. I have checked them. I'm not saying what's on them yet. You have to wait until I showcase them. I'm not showcasing them here because I made a series for that. I've got 2 in here and then 1 in here. And they will be showcased down the line. These will be showcased and, well, revealed in 2017. See, that's just the announcement, Alice. To know and to confirm to all my viewers that I have more reels. But let's do something more important that we need to get out of the way first. Let's put So Far As Sin on the shelf.